Welcome, mortal souls, to Strange Darkness Radio. Within the echoes of our hosts' haunting voices, terror weaves through the airwaves like a malevolent symphony. I am Benson, your spectral guide, leading you into the uncharted realms of the macabre. Brace yourself for a descent into a paranormal abyss with hosts Bobby Washington, Carolyn Grey, and Amy Tydeman. They traverse through tales that linger in the shadows, spectral apparitions, haunted domains, cryptids, and otherworldly encounters. Embrace the darkness, extinguish the lights, steel your nerves for a bone-chilling night into the heart of the unknown. It's time for Strange Darkness Radio.
I can feel it coming in the air tonight. Oh, and I've been waiting for this moment for all my life. Oh, can you feel it coming in the air tonight?
Welcome back to another episode of Strange Darkness Radio. It's your host, Bobby Washington, with
Carolyn Grey.
Amy Tydeman.
Nice. How are you ladies doing tonight?
We are, or not we, I am doing A-okay. I don't know about Carolyn.
Carolyn's not doing so hot tonight, so.
I don't want to answer for Carolyn. Yeah.
Carolyn, how's it going? What's been going on with you?
I'm great, but my headphones are real messed up. Did that intro sound weird to anybody else?
It did, yeah. No, it's a little patchy, so Bobby, okay. I don't know if you can hear on your end what's going on.
No, everything is fine. Because it's being streamed, and again, we're trying actually something new. So we're on Google Meets, doing it. We normally do it through Skype. And so, we're trying something new tonight. Before we get to tonight's special guest, we have a special shout out to Sammy Rothman, CEO, founder, and designer of OHMA World, based out of East Los Angeles. Hey, Sammy, we want to extend our deepest gratitude, man, because it's not often that you can just ring up a CEO of a company and they actually pick up the phone. They actually answer their emails. And if anything is wrong, they take care of it right then and there. The quality of your company, the quality of your mic, it all rings true. Man, unbelievable. Thank you so much for letting us display the OHMA microphone. Let me get this right. The OHMA Condenser Microphone on Strange Darkness Radio. Now we know what quality sounds like. Let me give you guys a little bit more information on this microphone. This microphone is crafted with precision and care. I'm not even joking. The design is unreal. It's flawless. The metal construction is just uncanny. At the heart of this condenser microphone lies something called the Little Debbie. A signature handmade capsule designed to deliver a timeless sound with an extended frequency response, paired with a vintage Cinemag transformer. This microphone exudes richness. The characteristics of my voice, the quality of what I'm hearing, it's just amazing. I'm sorry, y'all. I'm sorry. But yeah, this mic is amazing. If my boy Baloo was on this podcast tonight, he would just be spazzing out because the quality is just, he wouldn't even give this mic back. This mic has to go back. I'm not getting paid for anything. I'm not getting paid for any commercials I run on this product. It's because the product is so amazing. The quality is so unreal. So again, if you guys are singers out there, if you're musicians who need, they have the ribbon version of the microphone. If you need that, you can pick it up. You can order it. The mic is amazing. Again, the quality, you can hear it. Hear for yourself. You tell me. So anyways, we got to get back to the show. We have a amazing guest on tonight, John Radtke. So let's go ahead and Get it on and poppin'. Benson, let's roll.
Are you prepared to delve into the depths of the paranormal? Bobby and Carolyn recently appeared on the Dairyland Frights podcast, and now John Radtke, the host of Dairyland Frights, is joining Bobby, Carolyn, and Amy on Strange Darkness Radio. John's fascination with the supernatural, fueled by personal encounters and inspired by his hometown, led him on a quest to unearth chilling tales from the heart of the Midwest. From eerie childhood memories in his grandmother's Iowa farmhouse to his mother's interest in all things supernatural, John's passion for the paranormal runs deep. Dairyland Frights has evolved into a hub for all things eerie, exploring various paranormal phenomena and haunted histories. From dissecting the minds of notorious serial killers to investigating haunted locations, John and his guests leave no eerie stone unturned. With milestones like 10,000 downloads and collaborations with fellow creators, Dairyland Frights continues to enthrall audiences with its spine-tingling narratives and Midwest mysteries. Join us tonight as we unravel the secrets of the unknown with the one and only John Radtke.
John, welcome to Strange Darkness Radio.
Thank you. Thank you. That was a heck of an introduction. Boy, I didn't know I was so dark and so eerie.
You have a reputation, John.
Exactly.
I do. I feel like I'm in this mansion on top of a hill and there's like clouds and like, I open the door, creak. Hello, Bobby, Amy, and Carolyn. Welcome.
Nice.
It's also
nice.
Benson's voice. He just gives that creepy quality to everything he says.
Yeah. For sure,
I like
for
Benson.
sure.
I like Benson. That was a great, like I said, great introduction. Thank you. And thank you for having me back. I missed all of you. You guys are killing it. I listen to you guys all the time. And it's really cool to be back to be on the show. And, I love when I have you guys on. So.
Exactly. No, thank you. Definitely. So how have things been, since your whole rise in the podcast game? You've been doing spectacular. We're going to talk about other subjects, but I want to talk about you, how you got into it and the reason why you got into everything you've been into in the podcasting realm.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you for that. I really appreciate it because I'm a one-man band. I'm running the show by myself, which is fine. I have a lot of fun. The one thing that really got me into it, I think you guys already mentioned, was being at my grandmother's farmhouse when I was a kid. I mean, think about your stereotypical creepy farmhouse. That was my grandma's, right? Just an old farmhouse. And, I had an experience where like this door opened and there was nobody behind it. And my grandma was like, yeah, it's the wind, it's whatever, right?
Yeah.
And I heard footsteps all the time. So I got really interested in that. And then my mom would read books on the paranormal and books on serial killers. And when I was like 10 years old, I would ask my mom, what's that about? And she, hey, it's about Ed Gein, which one of the topics.
Like a
right?
bedtime story?
Yes, my mom would sit there. And then he took the hatchet and put Mom, what are you doing to me, Mom? You're killing
Good night,
me.
Sweetie.
Good night, tree.
Yeah, those were my kind of bedtime stories too, so I can relate.
Wow.
And then I've been on numerous ghost tours. I've been on to like over 16 ghost tours.
Wow.
Also been on 4 shut-ins. Unfortunately,
Okay, wait.
I have not seen a lot of paranormal.
Okay, but you're rolling too quick there. So
Okay.
we definitely have to talk about the shut-ins as far as you actually going to a location. And I don't know if you guys were old school where they lock you in for, let's say you go in at 7 or 8 and they don't unlock it until 6 or 5. Was it one of those?
And you stay overnight?
Correct.
Oh,
Wow.
You said you haven't experienced anything on those ghost tours?
No, I think ghosts know that I want to see them. They're like, oh, this guy, he's just, well, I'm going to go
Too
scare the
desperate.
crap.
Yeah.
I'm going to go to scare the crap out of Bobby or Carolyn. This guy, he doesn't care.
Well,
No, I have the same problem. I want to see one so bad, and I never have. Well, I never have seen anything.
Now, I've had feelings and stuff like that. And one of the shut-ins I was at was this haunted theater in Chicago. And they locked the doors actually, we came in about 10 o'clock, and we were there to about 6 in the morning. And then what you really do, I highly recommend someone to try this. Pick where you would like to go. You have paranormal investigators with you. They do it safely, so you're not breaking your leg, tripping over something, or falling off a balcony in the middle, because they shut off all the lights. Okay, you are in the dark, and then they give you little things like what I call the minor flashlight, when you put on your head.
Yeah,
the headlamps.
Yeah, you kind of stumble around, and then you'll go with a paranormal investigator with some type of EMF device, some type of whatever they're using, some temperature gauges, whatever. And then you walk around the theater. And when I did the theater experience in Chicago, one woman, and believe this is an experience you got to experience. So we were all sitting there, it was near the end, and we were all just eating snacks. They have a little snack table for you. So you can have whatever. So we're eating snacks and we're just talking. And then all of a sudden we just blood-curdling scream. I can't do it, but you can imagine.
Yeah.
I'll try. No, just kidding.
That'll be in post.
That'd be hilarious, by the way. So we were all like, oh my God. And we all go running out. And there's this woman, and she's just shaking and she's just shivering. And we're like, oh, okay, well, what happened? And she saw this little girl with black eyes standing in front of her, plain as day.
Wow.
As you would see a little girl on the street corner, whatever, coming up to you, and she flipped out. And the paranormal investigators who have done this numerous times have said, oh, that's, I think her name was Mary. And she was a little girl that she burned alive in a fire in that theater. So people
I've heard of that story.
People were trampling basically other people, and the people that got trampled, well, they burned alive. And this was late 1800s, something like that. So there wasn't sprinklers. It was
fire
just
safety.
Yeah. It was every person for themselves. So most people got trampled to death or burned alive. Pick your choice.
Wow.
So was it a theater at the time when that fire happened? Because I feel like I've heard of this little child ghost in this theater.
This is a common thing. Believe it or not, people would bring their children with them. Usually wealthier people bring their children to see a play. And then unfortunately some would die. That's some stories I've done at this. It's just the way it was. Or a little girl fell over the balcony to her death, or you probably have heard these different stories. But yes, it was a theater at that time, and then it was different iterations to finally they built it back up to be a theater again, where you can go and watch live plays or live music. But it was, I tell you, when you're just sitting there 3 or 4 in the morning, and all of a sudden you heard this blood curdling scream. Woo! That'll get your blood flowing.
Wow.
Did they allow any recording at any of these ghost hunts or anything?
Yes. So you would go, like I said, you go different paranormal investigators. It depends what equipment they had with them. But they played past recordings for us before we went out. And there were some that were recordings that said, "Get out." There were recordings that say, "I'm going to kill you." There were recordings of crying children or giggling children, and they would play this for us. And when you hear it, you're just, because it's you hear the static, right? You just hear that, whatever noises, the air conditioning go down, and then you hear like a hee 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 hee, and you're like, oh shit.
What
You
they
know.
set up for?
So were the voices like on those, like what's it called? Where it's like through radios, they pick up voices.
Spirit box.
Yeah, spirit box. Is that like where have you guys heard those?
No, they were just using at that time just regular something like old tape recorders you would use to take now that our phones do everything, but back in the day when you actually had to have a physical tape recorder and do that. So they would have these really nice small handheld tape recorders with really nice mics on them, and they would pick up everything.
Oh, okay. So it was like the actual spirit's voice as opposed to like coming through a spirit box then. Ooh,
absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah,
really cool.
absolutely. And like I said, the one that said get out was, wow. It was this deep man's voice. It was like, get out. And it's just
Gosh. Yeah, I would have run out the door if I heard that.
I know.
Oh, that's scary.
Yeah, well, we didn't want to stay, but we already paid the money. And
oh, yeah. Might as well get your money's worth.
Might as well, right?
No refunds.
Yeah.
Do you still go out and do ghost hunts?
Funny.
Or do you just get paranormal teams to come on your show?
Yeah. So occasionally I go out. So I am right near, if you're familiar with the famous architect, Frank Lloyd Wright, his house, or I call it a mansion, is like right like a third of a mile away from it, which is haunted by his wife and children who were killed, who were burned alive by a servant who was
common thing
with his wife.
Where you're at?
Oh my gosh.
Is that what's happening?
Yeah, you can read the newspaper article. It's on Google. You just Google it. It's horrible. Absolutely horrible.
But he didn't die in the house?
No, he did not.
Right?
No, he did not.
His family.
And the graveyard where he is buried, I've gone to a couple times and tried to get a recording or just try to get a feeling, but I've never really picked up anything other than a creepy vibe. You know what I mean? And I'll take pictures of it and put it on my Instagram sometime because it's in this creepy area right off the road. And at night, man, it just, you just like, I'm good. Take my pictures and I'm out.
Dang. So have you ever, got any EVPs in the cemetery? And how often do you actually go out to cemeteries?
Yeah, not that often anymore. I haven't really gotten anything to be particular, but when I was in Savannah, I went on a tour in Savannah, Georgia, but I highly recommend go to Savannah, Georgia if you can. It's one of the most haunted cities in the United States, and people there are totally cool about the paranormal. They're just like, it's haunted. We're used to it. It's no big deal. So when we went on the tour, they took us to the Sorrel Weed House, which is one of the most haunted houses in the world. And this is where a Civil War general, colonel, where his family was poisoned by their slave. Because
I know that story.
The colonel was having an affair with the slave. And the wife said, basically beat her to death. Yeah,
we did a story on that.
Nearly beat her to death. And to find, when she found out, and she poisoned, the wife died and two of the kids died.
Yeah, she poisoned the family.
The colonel died a little later, I believe, in there. But I remember walking in, and you walk in this house, and it's immediately like, ugh. You just have a feeling like a heavy wet coat, right? And I walked in there, and there's this voodoo symbol in we would call it a den. And there's this voodoo symbol on the floor when you walk in. And the people the tour guides tell you, whatever you do, do not step on this symbol because it's meant to curse you. So the whole group took a step back. Like literally, we all.
Can we cover that up? Can we please cover that up?
They should have it like cordoned off then, because what if someone's not paying attention later? And
they did. See, what she did was the slave woman. She put that on there and then threw the carpet over. And so when the family would walk across, right, the kids would play on it. The kids, and he walked. When they were doing renovation at the Sorrelweed house, they lifted up the carpet and voila.
Oh, that's
the original mark.
That's the original.
That's interesting because I think when we told the story, we had it more so just from the research that she had poisoned the family. And then once they found out, I believe they hung her or something, you know, there was the townspeople and everything. So yeah. Interesting.
Yeah.
They eventually got a mob and they killed this woman. The other thing about it was super funny. We went in the basement and it's like, the best way to describe it is it's like a serial killer basement. I mean, it's dirt and just like, if you were caught in this basement, you're dead.
Well, it's like a root cellar, right?
Correct,
so the walls are like dirt.
But they expanded it. And anyway, I thought it was really, I always tell this funny story. So I was there by myself. I was on business and I was just trying to, just do something fun while I was on business. And, but I was walking down and there was two older women in their 60s, like grab my arms and they're like, sweetie, you need to protect us. I'm like, what am I going to do?
That is too funny. That's too funny. But, hey, there's, security in numbers. So that's, they were going off of that for sure.
Safety in numbers.
Yes.
Just feel safer.
The other thing they take you on is the cemetery, but they will not let you in, of all things, at night. The reason why cemetery was desecrated by Union soldiers. If you know your history, I'm a big history buff. I'm a history nerd.
Yeah.
If you know your history, Sherman did a march to the sea and he just laid waste to all the southern towns. He just burned them and did terrible things. Mm-hmm. Well, in the cemetery, what the soldiers were cold, so their genius idea was to take all the bodies out of the mausoleums, just throw them on the ground, go into the mausoleum, start fires, and keep warm. People would also dig up fresh graves, throw the skeletons out, go into the grave because it's warmer, right, with the ground and everything, and have a little fire. So there were...
Sounds like a terrible idea.
Yeah, I'm not
skeletons strewn everywhere, okay? Wow. And nobody cleaned this up until, later.
Yeah.
So walk past the cemetery. The reason we didn't go in was because the guy said, two things are going to happen to you. One, you're going to get pushed. Two, you're going to go out with marks. Three, you're going to get sick. And four, I don't know what else bad could happen to you. So we're not going in there.
Yeah.
And so I was like literally the guy said, you have to sign a waiver to go in there. We're not going to do that. So we just walked past. But this is the thing I tell people. So after the tour, I was walking past by myself and, I got out my iPhone and I was just like, I'm going to take some pictures. Well, I took a bunch of pictures, right? None of them turned out. Not one.
Wow.
And then I came back to my hotel room and I just started taking pictures around my hotel room. See if it's my stupid camera, in here. I got to get a new phone or something. Perfect pictures. Absolutely perfect.
Oh,
wow.
So
that is weird.
I know. And then this was the funniest thing out of all. I go downstairs to talk to the, the manager, and I tell her what I did. And she looks at me, she goes, "Oh, darling, you never walk in Savannah alone at night. Are you crazy?" I mean, she was adamant, adamant about it. Now, two things I found out. One, it's a crime-ridden city, and there's good chance I could get mugged.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And two, spirits like to attach themselves supposedly to people who are walking alone. And so she was adamant, like, do not do that again. That was really dumb. You can't do that. And then I told her about my phone. She goes, "Oh, yeah. You never get a picture there. Trust me. It's especially at night. Mm-hmm. It's just too full of bad mojo or whatever you want to say."
Yeah.
And I was like, "Oh, yeah." So I highly recommend you go to that. There's some great tours down there. Be careful when you're walking around. But
do you still have those pictures, even the blurry
No.
ones that you took?
no,
Oh.
my old phone. I got a new phone, so my old phone. I didn't save any of them, but they weren't even distinguishing, Carolyn. They were. You look like
Can't see
you know how
anything.
sometimes you sit on your phone with your butt and then it takes a picture or something.
Yeah.
You get like a butt picture and you're like looking at it. You're like, when did I take this picture? What the hell? And you're like, oh shit, I have my camera on. I'm sorry.
Oh, okay. Well,
Let me ask you this. In this whole process of you doing the whole ghost tours and, doing ghost investigation and all that good stuff, what prompted you to start a podcast? Was it that you just wanted to have the experience of talking to other people that had like-minded ideas and hear their stories? Like, what prompted that?
Yeah, absolutely. So I could talk to fun people like yourself. I have spoken to people I didn't think I would never speak to in my normal life. I've speak to a witch from the Netherlands, a practicing witch, practicing Satanist. I've spoken to numerous paranormal investigators who've told me some freaky ass stories. And I'm just fascinated by the whole mystery of it because again, like I tell people is what's beyond this. There has to be something beyond. And it's not necessarily the Hollywood tripe, right? Like movies like Insidious or The Conjuring, where it's negative energy and it's bad energy. That's what sells, right?
Yeah.
But there's also, I've spoken to people who have said, you know what? If I felt like someone pulled me out of the way of this moving car, or I was, sleeping one night and I woke up and don't know why I woke up and realized there was a small fire in my house, or, you know what I'm saying? Like there's just
where they can
really cool stuff that help you. Yeah. So I love hearing that stuff. And especially I've spoken to people from England and how they view Americans paranormal versus our paranormal. Like they got to remember, like in London, you walk down the street and that building is 800 years old, 1,000 years old. It's crazy, right? Like they hung people, they tortured people in this building that you're having a drink at.
Yeah.
And in America, you're more like, well, I got to go maybe to the Northeast or somewhere where it's a little more rich tradition. But in like, I was talking to this guy who lived in London. He was like, oh yeah, I walk out there, my pub, it's haunted. Yeah. No, people were killed in the basement. Yeah, okay. People are hung outside the pub. It's just right.
Yeah, you hear that a lot.
To them.
Exactly. That's pretty awesome. I do love, again, you don't technically have a co-host, but you have a co-host, meaning the person that you pod with, that you reach out to. I think that is freaking ingenious. And it always keeps things fresh. So that's really a great concept to do.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
What drew you to that? You're like, okay, that's how I'm going to do it, opposed to just doing it myself and, trying to get guests on and that whole process.
Yeah, believe it or not, it was out of necessity. I had originally two of my coworker friends with me when we did the first like 25 episodes together, and then they just got burned out.
Yeah, been there.
They were just like, John, I can't do the research. Like, they're starting a family. They're doing all, and it was just really hard for them to do that. So I was like, hey, I love you both, but I gotta move forward with this. And I have them on from time to time. And then I just thought, I want to listen to people who I want to listen to. So that's why, I'll go on Instagram, whatever. I'm like, wow, that's super interesting. I want to have that person on. They sound like a fun person, or they have maybe an interesting story, or they have an interesting concept. I just had this really nice people from Hot Garbage True Crime TV show, TV podcast, I should say. And they were on there and they were like talking about all this crazy stuff and they were joking about it. And I was like, I never would have thought, they would do something like that. it's true crime. It's terrible. These people do terrible things, and they're joking about it, but they're having fun with it, and that's what I love.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
nice. Any of Carolyn, you have any questions, Amy?
Yeah, I really wanted, so I read the article about you. I forget the name of the article, but I was very interested to hear that you wanted to buy the Amityville house, and
Yes,
that, like,
yes.
that's crazy to me.
What?
Why did you want to buy that house? And like, you don't
Wouldn't
care about the history? Yeah, tell us about that.
Yeah. So what was really funny about that, I've always wanted to live in a haunted house. Like, I talked to my guest and they're like, oh, I lived in a haunted house all my life. Or I don't understand the concept of that, of like, they would tell me, oh yeah, I go downstairs and I see a shadow person. Oh, the cupboards are open again. Oh, something tickled my feet. Oh, I'm on it. And I'm like, boom, my head just explodes. I'm like, there's no way. So what's really, I've always wanted to buy a haunted house. And I've looked at it, and then one day I have like a Google alert, and one day the Amityville house came on sale. So I said, yes. So I immediately called the realtor, and I said, hey, and the realtor, by the way, I got to have her on. She's been doing the real estate in that area for like 30 years. She's awesome. Very funny lady. So I call her, and she's like, all right, let me ask you first. Are you a paranormal investigator? And I'm like, no. And then she goes, but do you like the paranormal? And I say, yeah, I love it. And she goes, okay. She goes, I'm going to settle something right for you right now. And I've told this story many times. The Amityville Horror house is not haunted. It's never been haunted. It's all bullshit. It's made up. And the reason why is because she's been doing real estate in that area for over 30 years. Okay. She knew the DeFales or whatever their name was.
Yeah,
they were crazy, drugged up, messed up people. Okay. The dad was on drugs. The son was on drugs. The daughter was on drugs. Mom's probably on drugs. Everybody was on drugs. She tells a story about William DeFale would come out in his underwear and come out in the yard and like scream and howl at the moon and stuff. And neighbors would be like, oh my God, this guy's out of his mind.
Wow.
So I asked her about this, and I said, so people were murdered in that house. And she said, well, yes, they were. It's unfortunate. She was a young woman when this happened. She hadn't been in real estate at that time. And she told me that it's unfortunate. And everybody were like, oh my God. But she was kind of in the back of her mind, like, yeah, something's going to happen in that house. So when someone bought the house, the people who wrote the books, and I can't think of their name off the top of my head, basically they said they heard stuff and some weird stuff. So they basically, over a glass of wine, or I should say a bottle of wine, I'm thinking many bottles of wine, came up with this story. So she's been in that house multiple times. There is no murder room. There is no blood on the walls. There is no nasty demons. She has sold this house numerous times. If you go look at the house, it's not people move out because demons and it's scary. It's because it is a handful and a half. It's a huge, gorgeous house. You would have to get a maid to take care of that house. It has its own boathouse.
And it's old too, right?
Very old.
Yeah.
The people had to change their address because it was on whatever address of the so paranormal investigators would show up and take pictures and try to break into the house and all this stuff. And she said people were more scared of who lived in the house of that, coming home from work. How would you like to come home from work and see some dude trying to break into your house?
Exactly.
And it's just some weird right? Or wake up in the morning and look out your window, and there's this weirdo on the lawn, paranormal investigator, peeking in your windows. Yeah. I mean, enough's enough, right? So anyway, I said, I don't care. I want to buy it. What do we need to do? So I'm going through the whole process and everything. And then my wife with the kibosh got it. She's like, I am not moving to upstate New York.
That's funny.
taking my job and our kids at that time and moving. I'm like, come on, hon, this is gonna be great. And she loved the house. I was so enthusiastic. I was like, oh, this is gonna be so great. This is gonna be so much fun. And I had a plane ticket to fly out there and tour the house. And then I talked to the woman and she was like, well, you know, do you really want to come out here to see a house you're probably not going to buy? I'm like, yeah, you know, I want to. And she's like, well, no, I'm busy. So no, I never got inside the house, unfortunately. But I was filling out the paperwork. I had all bank loans going.
Wow.
And, but she sent me pictures constantly, and I have to try to find them. I think it's on one of my old computers. So I made her take a copy of where the gate to hell is. You take a picture of it and send me that. I had to take pictures all over the house, and I know I have them somewhere. I have to look for them, but she was adamant. She's like, John, if you really want a haunted house, I know where some haunted houses are, but this is not it. So you're going to be disappointed. And she said, people, you know, like I said, typically move out because it takes a lot of work with this house, and they're sick and tired of people showing up, you know, and just causing problems. But, you know, she was just more like, again, it's blown out of proportion and it's all fake. So I'm sorry to burst your bubble, but that's what it is. So
there's a really good documentary, and it's free on YouTube. It's a long one. There's like 7 parts. But John, if you haven't seen this, you might like it. It's called Shattered Hopes, and it tells the true story of the Amityville horror. But in the documentary, they interviewed family members that, you know, people didn't even know they existed, of the DeFeos, including Ronnie DeFeo's wife. So Ronnie DeFeo's the one that murdered his family and he went to prison. He had a wife that nobody knew about. And so a lot of the documentary is based on what she says. And I guess that family, like you said, they were drug addicts and there was a lot of abuse and they were just a really messed up family. But they also had mafia ties on both sides of the family. And so when Ronnie got arrested, his grandfather actually came to visit him and convinced him to go along with this demon possession story.
Plead insanity.
Just specifically so that they wouldn't investigate any further and that they would leave the family business, you know, kind of alone. So it's a really, really good documentary. But I think, but my point is, I think it's a good thing you didn't waste your money on a not haunted house, because it sounds like the whole thing was made up, so.
My kids would have been miserable. They would have been like, you know, I don't want to be here, kind of.
But you would have been okay, John, like with the history of the DeFeos, like you would have
absolutely.
See,
I would have been.
It's still creepy.
The
family was murdered there. I mean,
I could never.
It is still a creepy story, and you know, I can see why your mind might, you know, go away with you, right?
But it's also
there could be bad energy.
Yeah, it's also like what Amy said. At the end of the day, a family was murdered there, so who knows when those things might surface and what can bring those things out. And a lot of people doing a lot of so-called, if you believe in, whether it's black magic, voodoo, witches, particular things that can probably draw energy to, you know, manifest anything. So anything's possible these days. But
absolutely.
Yeah, definitely. Let's go ahead and take a break, and then we'll be right back, and maybe we'll change up the story. We'll be right back.
Step into the extraordinary with Strange Darkness Radio, where every whisper holds a secret and every sound tells a tale. And guiding us through this mysterious journey is none other than the OHMA Condenser Microphone, a masterpiece of craftsmanship and innovation. Meticulously fine-tuned and hand-painted, the OHMA Condenser Microphone is more than just a pretty face, it's a work of art. With its unmatched sound quality and unbelievable craftsmanship, every word spoken resonates with clarity and depth, transporting listeners to realms beyond imagination. But that's not all. The OHMA microphone offers a level of customization like no other. With interchangeable metal screens, you have the power to not only shape your sound universe, but also create a look that is uniquely yours. From the elegance of champagne pink brass, from the sophistication of motif black brass, to the enchantment of motif copper rose gold, the possibilities are endless. Experience the solid, warm sounds of the OHMA microphone, where every note is well balanced and every nuance is captured with precision. With its signature handmade capsule and vintage Cinemag transformer, it delivers a timeless sound that transcends the ordinary, striking a perfect balance of classic color and musical detail. So visit ohmaworld.com, let your voice shine through, and design your reality. Now let's get back to Strange Darkness Radio.
All right. So, Carolyn, did you want to get into a different part of John's story?
Yes.
I'm scared. I'm scared. Just for the record.
Last
people.
time when we, oh, sorry, Bobby.
No, go. I'm just
last time.
I'm scared.
So when we were on John's show last time, he kind of teased us with a little personal story that he has about 2 serial killers. And the first one we're going to get into is Ed Gein. I did prepare a introduction for the Ed Gein topic, and just a disclaimer, it is going to sound a little funny because I did it very last minute. So nobody get mad at Bobby. This is on me. Nobody get mad at Bobby or Benson.
Yeah,
this is on me.
Yeah. No one will get mad anyways. I just want to let people know that Benson's okay, and
he's not drunk. It's my fault.
Yeah, this is yeah. Anyways, let's just play it. Here we go. On the show, we actually threw this out to Benson to do last minute. And that's what the whole laughter and conversation was about. But we do have a new onboard AI that we will touch into from time to time during the actual podcast, just to it's more of a concept of phone a friend. If there's a particular topic that we're looking for information on or just something like that, we're able to now use this particular AI to answer questions right on the fly, something I don't have to program or already set in motion. And it's really good. So we're going to go ahead and let Edison do this reading that Carolyn sent to me an hour before the show. So here's Edison.
Ed Gein, also known as the Butcher of Plainfield, was an American murderer and suspected serial killer with 2 confirmed victims and 7 suspected ones. He was notorious for grave robbing and crafting items from human organs, skin, and bones. His gruesome activities have inspired numerous books and films, including Psycho, The Texas Chainsaw Massacre, and Silence of the Lambs. Born on August 27, 1906 in Plainfield, Wisconsin, Gein lived in a small town where the disappearance of women began to stir unease. Among the missing was Bernice Warden, a local hardware store owner. Her son Frank, a deputy sheriff, discovered that Ed Gein was the last customer before his mother's disappearance. When authorities visited Gein's home for questioning, they encountered a house of horrors. The residence was filled with clutter, except for his mother's bedroom, which Gein had preserved as a shrine. Investigators were horrified to find items made from human body parts, including lampshades, gloves, and masks crafted from human skin, bowls made from skulls, and furniture constructed from bones. In a shed on the property, they discovered Bernice Warden's decapitated body hanging upside down. Gein was arrested and confessed to the murders of Warden and another woman, Mary Hogan, and admitted to grave robbing and necrophilia. On November 21st, 1957, Gein was arraigned on 1 count of first-degree murder in Waushara County Court, pleading not guilty by reason of insanity. Diagnosed with schizophrenia and found mentally incompetent, He was committed to Central State Hospital and later transferred to the Mendota Health Institute, where he died in 1984 at the age of 77. In March 1958, Gein's house was destroyed by arson, an act never solved or prosecuted. Today, the site of Gein's heinous acts is an empty, overgrown lot, a grim reminder of the atrocities committed there.
But yeah, let's get into this craziness, because this is just extremely unreal as far as the things that this man was doing. Wow.
It's crazy
Yes.
story.
So go ahead, Carolyn.
Well, I was just going to say, I did leave a lot out of that little intro because I wanted us to actually be able to discuss it on the show. So, yeah, but go ahead. You can start this off since you knew someone who knew him, apparently.
Yeah, but let me start with some interesting facts for your audience. And one of the interesting facts is Ed Gein was a tremendous babysitter. He babysitted most of the kids in Plainfield. In fact, I have a friend from a podcast, Badgerland Legends, give a shout out for him, that his aunt was babysat by Ed Gein.
And he did a good job. Like
He was phenomenal. He would play with the kids. He would have great times. People didn't even bat an eyelash. Didn't even like, kids loved him. The night before he was captured, or they went into his house, he was having dinner with one of the baby sit families, whatever you want to say, and they just loved him. Like, everyone in town knew Ed Gein was weird and a little off, but they never
suspected that.
No one suspected this. Nobody.
And no children that he babysat. Like, there were no missing kids ever in that town, right? So he
wouldn't harm a hair
children
on those kids.
Wow.
Okay.
He wouldn't even harm a hair on them. And he was just renowned for doing that. Like, people would be like, he's so good at this. And, it's
Jesus.
That's bizarre, yeah.
So the other fact that Benson did say, he's suspected in killing 7 people, but they only can put 2 people to his crimes, to his serial killing. And that's my hard thing. I do not call him a serial killer because there's only 2 people that they can say he
actually murdered.
They can actually prove it. And serial killers, 3 or more. Why? I don't know. They came out 3 or more, but that's it. So
can I interrupt you just real quick? I want to know if so I was going to get into this when we talk about his upbringing or whatever, but one of the suspected murders is actually his own brother, who there was some kind of like a brush fire, and Ed Gein, went and got the authorities, and he told them that there was a fire and he didn't know where his brother was, but then he wound up leading them straight to his brother's body.
Yes.
And the body was not burnt at all. So so to me, that's pretty convincing of a third victim right there. So that's why I do consider him a serial killer. But my question for you is, do you know of any other victims specifically that he's suspected of killing?
Not really. I've read a few books on him, and there were some women in the area that he did not like. So the thing about Ed Gein's mother's too, she did not let him date. She called women the devil, and she would say, women are the devil. You cannot date anybody. They're going to hurt you. They're going to bring pain to you. And to me, to this day, I'm like, why would she say that? Like, you know what I'm saying?
Right.
There was no incestuous relationship that no people know of.
It's been implied, but there's never been. He never said anything.
I mean, there was nothing. It's really strange. So when he would like a woman and bring her home, his mom would just flip out on him. And she would just berate this poor girl, calling her, a whore and a hussy or whatever terms they used at that time. And then, they would just, he'd be like, okay. And she just berate him for doing that. It's just really weird. The other thing which I found really interesting is his gravestone is no longer at the Plainfield Cemetery, so you cannot go there and see his gravestone. And you may ask why? Because people were chipping off a piece of his gravestone and selling it on eBay. Now, there's some funny stories with it. It's people who have said they've gotten that supposed grave, a stone or whatever you want to say, piece of it, have said they have like shadows in their house. They have felt dread. They have felt just negative energy. So most people have thrown it out or have sold it again. Now you ask, where's the gravestone now, John? It is in the Plainfield City Hall, locked up in the basement. So if you wanna break into there, which I don't recommend,
try to chip off a piece.
And that's where all the cops are, so they probably shoot you. And we do not want anybody gonna get shot over trying to get his gravestone. And to me, that's something that it was really interesting that people would do that.
Right.
But okay.
Well, so I have
I was just back then this was a bigger deal because they weren't used to this stuff. But anyways, sorry, Amy.
No, go ahead. Finish your thought.
No, that's it. Just I also read that they used to chip off pieces of his tombstone, and that's just because back then they didn't know what serial killers were. This was just a huge weird story to them. So
right.
Like
one question. I was going to say one question that I had was, weren't the two women that it was known that he killed? Didn't they say like they resembled his mother or something like that, or
something like that? I think it's more he thought they were hitting on him, like trying to it's Wisconsin. We're all Wisconsin nice, so you might count that as flirty, right? For some people. And maybe he thought that, and he would hear his mother's head in his head all the time, mother talking to him. So maybe he thought, oh, she's a hussy, she's a whore. I have to.
So I'm going to shoot Mary Hogan in the face because
I don't know.
Flirted with me. Jesus.
Sure.
Wow.
Sure.
Yeah.
Sure.
Interesting.
He had a very weird psychology because, and this is why Norman Bates is based off of him in Psycho, because some of the items, and I have a list of everything they found in his house that I'm going to read off, but some of the items were like, it was like he was trying to create a suit, like a skin suit out of these women's body parts. And some people think that he was actually acting as his mother. He would put on these skin pieces and pretend to be his own mother. Which is so bizarre.
So imagine this. This is from one of the books. They did a drawing in it, and I can't remember the title of the book. It's probably just Ed Gein serial killer. But anyway, he would take fishing line, and then he would take the woman's face and put it on his face and put torso of the woman on him, and he would dance in the moonlight in cemeteries. So imagine you're in a small town taking a walk, just a nice summer night, and you see this man with a woman's face and body parts. Like he would take the woman's vagina and her breast and put it on like a little, and he would dance around and sing and dance. And the only reason somebody said that is because he admitted in open court that he did that.
Wow.
Oh, wow.
And
he
he
really
had
did
to
do
have
that.
been seen by someone.
It's not just conjecture.
I mean, come on.
Yeah, right. Someone had to have seen him. He would look like, if anyone has seen Chainsaw Massacre, Leatherface, how he wears those creepy face masks. I mean, it would look like that, dancing in a cemetery. And this really happened. I mean, this is terrifying.
Yeah. And go ahead, Amy.
Oh, I was going to say, I think there's a third movie that's inspired by him too, is Silence of the Lambs, which shows the guy, isn't he like dancing around with parts of them on him? Or I can't remember that scene.
The women. No, you're right. Silence of the Lambs is also based on Ed Gein, and he kidnaps women and then he starves them because the idea is that he wants to make a human woman suit out of their skin. So yeah. Creepy stuff.
Yeah.
The last thing about it, which I think is kind of funny, is to make it not as serious, is he would live on pork and beans. So when the cops would come in, he just would eat pork and beans and throw the cans on the floor. So when they came in, imagine coming in to all these body parts. It's the 50s, mind you. There's pork and beans cans everywhere. It's like he's a hoarder. And then there's just lamps made out of skin, a chair made out, like I said, Carolyn, you have the list. That's what blows me away the most, because you're a small town police officer. I live in a small town. If this happened today, it would still
for sure
freak people out, right?
Oh,
not to the extent it's the 50s, right? And all they're dealing with is a farmer maybe getting drunk and going down the street in his tractor, or somebody shooting or poaching something. They're not dealing with skin sofas, skin lamps, and
they literally didn't even know what serial killers were back then. I mean, this was before like the big serial killer boom that happened.
Yeah. So,
he's one of the OGs.
But basically, he had to have been getting the bodies from the graveyards, or from the mortuaries or somewhere where they were fresh enough to get the skin. And then, some he probably got from the actual cemetery to make the furniture, from the bones and different things. So no one ever reported grave robbing or missing bodies or anything?
Grave robbing.
I'm sure they did, and I'm sure the cops probably went, yeah, sure, whatever, I get you. The last thing is, and I have this on my Instagram, is someone bought Ed Gein's cauldron, which he used to melt skin off of.
What?
Women.
Who would want that?
Here, another funny tidbit that's funny, dark. I like dark humor, if you haven't figured that out already. This woman used it for years as a planter. It was on her front stoop, and she just put her plants in it. And it wasn't to when the woman passed away, her son was like, oh, this is a plant thing. And then he realized, wait a minute, something's off about this. And someone got a hold of him because he put it on for sale or something, like on Facebook or whatever. And someone goes, do you know what you have there? And he's like, yeah, it's just a plant. He goes, no, that's Ed Gein's cauldron. That's where he melted the skin off of people's bones in there.
Wow.
And he just went, believe it or not, he did what I call good old Ed Baggins from Ghost Hunters did buy the cauldron for like $3,000.
Yeah.
So he's in
Is it in his museum in Vegas? Is that where that is?
Yuck.
Wait, you're talking about Zach Baggins with the
ghost
stuff in Vegas?
Yeah. He owns the cauldron right now. He called the guy, I guess, and he said they actually put it up for auction. I'm sorry, they put it up for auction. Good old Ed Baggins bought it, and it is in his museum in Vegas. You can go and see it, or go to my Instagram page, and I have a picture of it. And you can see where you can still see where the dirt is, where the plants went in. Just like, what?
That's so cute.
So the guy put it like on Facebook Market, and then as soon as he found out it was Ed Gein's cauldron, he did like an auction for it.
Yeah, he put it on auction.
I don't know. That's
right.
That's not a lot of money,
right? No,
$1,000. That's pretty cheap.
Crazy.
That's gonna appreciate. But let us know about his his items, Carolyn, that he had.
Yeah. So this is a disgusting list. I'm actually going to skip a few of these because I refuse to say them out loud. But basically, this is a list of the evidence that was collected at Ed Gein's house. So they found whole human bones and fragments of bones. They found a wastebasket made of human skin. There was human skin covering several chairs, like dining room chairs. He had 4 skulls on his bedposts. There were skulls laying around the house. He had created like goblets and bowls out of some of these skulls that he was actually using to eat out of. They found a corset made from a female torso, which was skinned from the shoulders to the waist. So like John was saying, he would put that on and pretend to be a woman or pretend to be his mother and dance around with that corset. They found leggings or stockings that he had created out of a woman's leg skin, gloves made out of human hands. And then there were multiple masks made from the face skin of the victims, or from some of the bodies he had dug up. They actually found, so his 2 victims that were confirmed were Mary Hogan, who I believe she was like a tavern owner in the town.
Yeah.
And I think the 2 confirmed victims are interesting to me because Mary Hogan, I think she had kind of a reputation for being like a floozy around town and like a flirt,
Yeah.
like what John was saying.
Yeah.
So I think that she was picked out because of that. But I think that his other victim, Bernice Warden, she was older and she was the one who owned the hardware store. I think that she may have resembled his mother to him. Maybe
she could have been on to what he was doing,
theory, but
based upon
they found
he
Mary
was probably getting a lot of stuff to build his crazy, body art, I guess, body furniture.
his mom suit. Yeah, right. Well, they actually found Mary Hogan's face as a mask. So he had created a mask out of her face.
Oh, boy.
They found Bernice Warden's head in a burlap sack, and they found her heart in a plastic bag, which was in front of his stove. They found body parts from teenage
That's
girls.
odd.
So that's interesting.
Hmm.
Like at least 5 different female 15-year-old girls, or around that age. And they also found clothes from,
but no one was
younger
ever
girls that
reported
age.
missing. And all those bodies, and did they even do any DNA testing? I guess, back then we had some form of, that's interesting.
Yeah, this was the 50s, so they really couldn't have done a DNA test back then. But, we don't know who the 7 other supposed victims.
Yeah, no, I'm talking
or
about
potential
now
victims
because,
are, so
they
we don't
hold
know,
on to a
but-
lot of stuff. And did they ever go back? Yeah.
No,
And,
they should. You're right.
But I mean, he was
Yeah.
a grave robber, though, so that those
Yeah.
could have also
It could have
come,
just been
like, yeah.
Yeah.
And I'm not sure if he admitted to those being like
Yeah.
from graves or whatever, or
Yeah.
if they just didn't know. But that's interesting.
Yeah, I think he did try to say that aside from the 2 that he admitted to killing, he tried to say that everything else in the home was from his grave robbing escapades. But just the last few items, and then I'll let someone else have the floor. But they found a pair of lips that he was using as
Wow.
a drawstring for his curtains.
What?
They found
is this before
a
Botox?
lampshade
I'm just
made out of
asking.
the face skin of
Is this before Botox?
Huh? Yeah. Just normal sized lips or whatever.
Normal size. I got you.
They found a lamp with a lampshade that was made out of a human face. So, and I think there's like recreations of that online that you can actually buy now, like a human face lamp.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, it's gross. And then they also found a belt made out of human nipples
How many nipples
and
were
a
involved
human
in this
nipple
belt?
doorbell. Yeah.
How many
Classic
nipples were
nipple
involved?
belt.
Uh,
I want to say at least 15.
Are you
I think it
serious?
says
Wow.
here actually.
it was an uneven number, like not even double.
Wow.
Right. It doesn't say how many, but yeah, I think I've seen, I want to say I've seen pictures of some of these items, but at the same time, I feel like this is the type of thing that they wouldn't put online. But yep, I have it pulled up right here. There's a belt made out of human nipples.
Ew. Yeah, I don't even want to
Lovely.
see that. Yeah, I don't want to look
I
that
really
up.
don't.
But here's the thing with this whole thing. Obviously, he wasn't killing, people that were alive because they would have been reported. People would have been looking for them, that whole process, right? Either he was
you would think.
working for the mafia and he was the one getting rid of the bodies that were coming from different states and cities.
Just keeping them in his house and making furniture.
Or he was
Smart.
in cahoots with the the people who ran the cemetery, and they were reusing coffins, and they were giving him those bodies, and they weren't burying people, and so they wouldn't tell the cops. They wouldn't say anything to anyone, just based upon he's doing them a favor. So yeah, because there's a lot you hear about that going on with certain funeral homes that run cemeteries, they actually reuse the coffins, or you find the bodies stacked in the back, and the people were never buried. So yeah, there was something going on. Somebody had to know what he was doing for him to have so many bodies and so many different parts of bodies.
Well, one thing about Ed Gein, and I'm sure John knows more about this, but he was known in the town as like a weirdo, a recluse, like John kind of already said. So people really just, and his whole family before they died were a weird family. So I think people just kind of avoided that family, that house, and they just kind of left Ed Gein alone and didn't ever bother him or think about him. Because after his family died and he inherited the house, he literally was on his own. He didn't have a social life outside of, doing odd jobs and babysitting. He had no social life whatsoever. So he was up to his own devices pretty much all the time, which is very apparent from his house. I mean, if anyone ever would have stepped foot in his house, they would have immediately called the police and reported him. So he had years and years of just doing whatever he wanted and doing all this really dark stuff.
Yeah, but in that sense, he would have to dig up the body, take it out of the coffin or the hole, and put the dirt back. I mean, come on.
But he had the time. He had plenty of time to do it.
It's really like nobody would
the groundskeepers.
That,
I mean, there's so many. I think someone was involved. Whether it was his brother, someone was helping him or giving him access to corpses. Whether it was the local hospital, or just things would happen, and you want somebody gone. Well, let's call Ed.
For the sheer number of body parts that they found in his house, I can see why you would think that. But at the same time, I feel like back then grave robbing was a little more common than it is today. Because people would do that back then to find jewelry and coins and things like that. So I'm sure that people noticed something was going on. I just don't think they ever put two and two together.
Well, and that's what I'm saying. And what I looked up, sorry, John, real quick. What I looked up, no one ever said that a cemetery or funeral home complained about missing bodies or freshly dug holes or all these particular things. So that's the only reason why I say that. But go ahead, John. Sorry.
No, I was just going to say, you put a new angle on this, Bobby. He was an entrepreneur. All right. He was a guy just looking to make a few bucks just to kind of have a little fun and maybe
a furniture maker.
Go to one of those flea markets and put his lamps out there and be like, look at my lamp.
We did an episode,
businessman,
and it was crazy questions. And one of the questions were like, what would you do? How would you get rid of a body? And I think Carolyn had, what did you have? You had something about, I think you were dig a hole or.
I think Amy said,
somebody
acid,
said barrel.
Right?
Oh, yes. Acid and then dumping a cauldron in the ocean or something like that. You said
that's what Carolyn said, in the middle of the desert.
Right?
So
the desert,
he had to get creative with how and whoever was giving him access to these bodies. Because again, I'm not going to say he murdered anyone because he's only, responsible for two particular bodies, but he had access to a lot of bodies. So he was like, I can't get rid of these people. I can't burn them up. I don't have the acid pile. I don't have the barrel. So let me go ahead and make furniture. So, and then not only that, I'm going to make a skin suit because my mama's always tripping and she's had me under her wing and I can't stand her. So I'm going to make her, a representation of her. So obviously the man had mental issues for sure, for anybody to do all the things he's done, but someone knew that and they played into it and gave him access. That's what I believe.
Wow. This has gone really dark.
Bobby loves a good conspiracy theory. He's always looking for another angle.
Love it.
It's possible. You never know.
Well, you do, right? And and Bobby is exactly right. There was a recent story about this funeral home. I think it was in on the East Coast where exactly what Bobby was saying. They were putting the bodies in back, and then people would pay like X amount of dollars, and then they'd be like, "Wait a minute, like this looks exactly like my Uncle George coffin that I
Right.
buried like 6 months ago. Like, wait a minute. Oh, it's, and they would make up, oh, it's the same brand and model.
That's crazy.
Are you talking about the story where it was this guy who owned the funeral home, and he had actually been a football player and kind of almost famous, but he got into the family business, and then they just found in his backyard, in his shed, stacks of bodies. Like, I think there was
happens a
like
lot.
Oh my god.
60 or
Yeah, it
70
happens a lot.
bodies.
That's a new one.
No.
That's not who you're talking about?
No. This is
That-
like, yeah.
Oh.
Why
Now
wouldn't
you're really
they-
scaring me.
Why don't they just cream, so I was thinking they were burying the bodies, digging it up, and then putting it through the cremation process. Like, why even
These
go
these
to the
were
trouble of putting it in
older.
your backyard?
These were older funeral homes. They
quite
didn't have a
expensive.
crematorium
Is
on the
that-
premises. So how they would do it, they would just
Uh,
So
Yeah.
uh-uh.
So yep.
Yeah.
Yes, there's some shady
Exactly.
shit goes down in
That's
these
why.
funeral
Yeah,
homes,
you better
guys.
you better watch your loved ones all the way through the whole process because you never know.
Yep.
Damn
Want
right.
to watch them put them in the hole.
Yes, exactly.
All right. So do we want to? I know you had also, John, about Mr. I don't know, just call him Mr. but Dahmer. Do we want to move into that realm? Or Carolyn, do you have more?
Well, so was that all your tidbits about Ed Gein, or did you actually know? Oh, it was that your aunt was babysat by him. Is that the?
Not
the
my
connection?
aunt, like a friend of mine who has a podcast, talks about kind of the same similar things. His aunt was
Oh,
that.
okay.
Just one other thing before I would get to my story too, once we get to that, is so Plainfield is about 2 hours away from me. So I could literally get in my car and drive out to it. What Benson said is true. It is an overgrown lot. If you look at Google
We've
Maps,
seen
it's
it.
it's non-distinct. It's nothing really. You would probably pass it. It's one of those towns too. If you blink, you miss it.
Mhm.
But it is true that there was a guy that was going from Illinois that was going to buy Ed Gein's house and turn it into a museum. Correct. And then it mysteriously burned down. But I have spoken to paranormal investigators who have investigated that plot of land, and they all say the same thing. If it's a woman, they feel like they're being violated. I don't know how to
creeped out
that.
and
They also have told their hair has been pulled. They feel someone touching their arm. Most people say they're on there. It's just feeling of dread. People have said they've seen like shadows. And most of the investigators I spoke to who investigated it have said they're there for maybe half an hour, and then they're like, we're out of here. Like
Really?
it's just as soon as you step on it, because the people I talk to are mediums or seers, or, they can really, feel things. And they've all said the same thing. Like, this is a dark area. Like, this is bad. This is bad. And no one can figure out why someone hasn't gone in and blessed it or tried to go in and cleanse it. But no, in one of these days, I told people, Dairyland Frights, I'm going to drive out there and I'm just going to walk around and film it and see if I feel anything or if there's anything I can do.
That would be a great place.
Yeah, it is still private property. So yes, the police can come over and say, you need to leave. So you got to be careful if you are checking it out. I'd highly recommend maybe go to the local police station and be like, hey, I'm just checking this out. And is it okay? And they'll probably be like, your funeral, buddy. Whatever.
Right. Is it fenced off, or can you kind of just walk onto it?
You walk right onto it. You walk right onto it.
It's interesting that it's just stayed a vacant lot. Like, no one's tried to build anything else or tried to do anything with that land.
No one will build on it. They have said a million times, nobody's going to build on that ever.
Yeah.
It's too dark.
Yeah.
And too much dark history.
Well, not to kind of jump around in history, but just like an interesting note, I was going to, kind of bring up his upbringing and his childhood. And it's not just the murders and the, horrible things that Ed Gein did on the property that kind of tainted. It's that his whole upbringing was just miserable. His parents were weird and miserable and abusive. His mom like John touched on, was just this crazy religious weird woman, and she hated men and she hated women, and she just kind of would tell the boys that women were evil and to stay away from them and they're whores and all this. And so it was a very abusive, confusing childhood for these boys. Then you have the fact that one of the brothers died on the property, possibly by Ed Gein's own hand. The dad was an alcoholic and the mom bullied the dad. And so it's just that you've got all this horrible energy leading up to Ed Gein and his atrocities and this house of horror that he created. So yeah, I can see why it would just be like really dreadful, awful energy on that.
Mm-hmm.
I'm surprised the dad didn't kill the
Absolutely.
mom. So that's very interesting.
Yeah.
He was a
You
wimp.
are?
He was
He
Yeah,
was
to have
a
been.
beaten down guy. He was just this mousy guy.
Mhm.
That's what they said he was. He would just yes dear, yes dear, yes dear.
Yeah.
You know, he doesn't fight back like I do with my wife. Not that we fight.
Stick up for
I just say we
himself.
love to argue. That's all I had to say.
Yeah.
Funny.
Weird dynamics in that family. And then also, I don't know if this is 100% right, but I believe Ed Gein actually wound up going and digging up his mother's body too, right? And he brought it back to the house.
Yeah,
What?
there's rumors on that, and he tried to put it on the bed.
Yeah,
go
or put it in
into
her room.
He put it in a room.
Mm.
Yeah.
Wouldn't they
you know,
check her?
I've heard that.
Oh, because
Yeah.
wouldn't they just check her grave if he said that? Or I mean, if that room.
No idea. Yeah,
Well, I
no
think
idea.
supposedly they found her body in the house, but yeah, it's just not verified. So it could just
Can I
be
ask one
rumors that
question?
people
Who
made
was the
up
sheriff?
afterwards.
Barney Fife?
Hmm.
Like, what's happening here? What's happening? What's going on?
Yeah, that's what I was saying.
Yeah.
Right?
Like, come
Just
on.
drop the ball.
Exactly.
Just whatever.
Jesus.
Right.
Hey Ed, how you doing with the lady?
Right.
Okay.
Wow. Interesting.
Well, I think now we'd like to hear your other story,
Yeah,
not to completely switch gears here, but you've got like a personal story relating to Jeffrey Dahmer.
Oh, yes, absolutely. So one of the things was about Jeffrey Dahmer. You guys you can talk about it a little more, but the story I have is my my cousin in Milwaukee. He worked with Jeffrey Dahmer at and I can't remember the chocolate factory's name, but they worked side by side for years. Okay.
Wow.
In the heyday of Jeffrey Dahmer's killings. So what happened was my cousin, his friend was gay. And so everybody knew Jeffrey was gay. He was kind of a weird guy, but people just kind of dealt with him, you know. He was like, whatever. Anyone working in a chocolate factory 8 or 10 hours a day, you might think is heaven. It's pure hell because
Horrible.
all you do is smell chocolate. You taste like chocolate when you come in. Yeah, sour off chocolate. I mean, it's just after a couple of years of doing that, you're like, get me out of here.
I hate
to my
chocolate. I
cousin.
never want to say chocolate again.
Exactly. My cousin would always tell me that I would never eat chocolate again because he worked there
Really?
for like a few years. Anyway, so what happened was he was in the lunchroom with his friend, and Jeffrey Dahmer comes up and he's talking to my cousin's friend. I'll call him Bill. And Bill and him were talking. And he's like, hey, would you like to come out tonight for a drink? And Bill, I guess Jeffrey Dahmer was not his type. So he said, no, thank you, but no, he's very polite about it. And I guess Jeffrey Dahmer just kind of walked it off and it was no big deal, So that night, they happened to go to the same bar that Jeffrey Dahmer was at. And Jeffrey Dahmer, if you remember at all, he would slip things into people's drinks. And, they would be like, oh, I'm really tired. So another word, roofie, I guess the word if you want to use it, unfortunately. So they went to the bar and there's Jeffrey. And Bill made up a story. He was going to be like, oh, I'm busy. They hold like, you want to be nice, but you don't want to tell the person you don't want to date him. So when he walks in, there's Jeffrey, and Jeffrey's like, oh, hey, Bill, glad to see you. And he's hitting on Bill, and they're talking and everything like that. And they're going through all this stuff. And my cousin's just kind of sitting there, and he's like, this guy, something's not right about this. He's just just bombarding, Bill. Hey, let's go back to my apartment. Let's come on, just relentlessly hitting on him, right? And so, it's like, hey, let's just get out of here. And he's trying to grab Bill, and Bill at this time is a little drunk because Jeffrey had been buying him drinks, and he notices Bill is starting to slur his speech and like act like weird and stuff. So he's like, hey man, you okay? What's going on? And Jeffrey looks at, and this is where my cousin Ted, I will call him, will never forget it. So my cousin Ted grabs Bill and he says, hey man, let's go. It's time to go. And Jeffrey immediately grabs Bill and he just looks at my cousin Ted like, you better fucking let him go right now.
Oh, wow.
I'll kill you. And just this cold predator stare. And, my cousin doesn't take any shit from anybody. He grew up in Milwaukee and he like, whatever. So he drags Bill out of there, and Jeffrey comes out of the bar and he's still like, hey man, whatever. And they're just talking shit. So they get out of the bar and they get Bill home, and it's like, okay, what's going on? And then the next day, Jeffrey shows up and he kind of he's acting weird towards everyone and like weirder than normal. So now flash forward to the time when they find Jeffrey Dahmer's apartment with the barrels. They're walking out with male body parts, the skulls, all this stuff out of this apartment. It was on the news. Go look at the video, and it's insane. It's like out of a horror movie. So at that time, my cousin Ted and his friend Bill happened to be watching the news just at that time. Right? It's like serendipity, and he's hearing more and more, and all of a sudden he realizes, if I would have went to that apartment, that would have been me in one of those barrels.
Yeah,
there's no doubt that would have been his, friend Bill in the barrels. No doubt at all, because he at that night killed somebody. I think it was a Filipino man.
Yeah, it's one Mexican guy, one one Asian, and then the rest were 15 black gentlemen.
Yeah. So the police find out about this, and they bring, I don't know why they did this, but they bring Bill in and they're questioning him. They're talking through him. And they basically told him, this shows that the police have literally no bed mat or whatever. They go, yeah, you could have been fucking dead, pal. You're lucky you got out of there. And here's the thing. So Bill freaked out like any one of us would do, right? He checked out of what I call hotel reality. He spent years in therapy, years in institutions.
That is so sad.
And just, he was messed up. Now, there's a happy ending to this. Bill is okay now. Me and my cousin, we talk from time to time. And, before I was talking about these stories, I wanted to see, he says, no, Bill's moved far away.
Yeah.
He's fine. He's dealing with it. He's married now. He's a partner. He seems to be doing fine. But here's the thing. When all those specials were coming on Netflix, the Jeffrey Dahmer
it had
thing,
to be traumatizing.
His partner canceled Netflix like that. Just canceled it. Because he could not. Movies, books, like literally the guy walks into like a Barnes and Noble or any bookstore, and if he sees like a Jeffrey Dahmer book, it's like, no, get me out of here. And that just made me realize how weird life is, because someone did a study at one time, and I don't know, they must have a lot of free time on their hands, and they said that in your lifetime, more than likely, you have either worked, met, or been in close contact with a serial killer and just didn't know it.
I think about that.
I just couldn't believe that someone I knew, now I did not know Bill very well, but I knew my cousin Ted very well, that actually met a serial killer of his caliber and almost was killed by him. That just blows me away to this day. I just can't believe that. That's just crazy, right?
Yeah. It's like that 7 degrees of separation. Like
Yeah.
it's crazy. Even though it wasn't your direct friend, it's still crazy that you know someone who knew
Yes.
Jeffrey Dahmer and almost could have been a victim. And he had 2 other victims that escaped. And I think they went through similar traumatic experiences as your friend. It's a very weird, it must be like survivor's guilt almost, where you just, and not to mention the fear that you almost could have died. And
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Just having that hang on you, just, just waking up every morning and having to think about, I almost went to his apartment. And you got to remember, like I said, this is in his heyday where he had skulls in his refrigerator. He had a bucket of penises in his
Oh my gosh.
closet.
yeah.
The
height of his
went to the
career.
local,
crazy.
adult shop and got some different colored things. That's it.
Yeah, and
Horrible.
it's just weird in the sense too that it's close to where I live. You just don't think about it. Because I've been in Milwaukee so many times, and I've been in that bar with my cousin. He would invite me over. Hey, come on! I never saw Jeffrey Dahmer, but he would invite me over, and it was a fun little bar. And it was nothing with it, and it was fun to hang out with. And just he chose that bar is weird too. It's just, I don't know.
Well,
All the bars
probably following them or something. I mean, that is kind of a weird.
The messed up one
coincidence.
to me was the Asian
No
kid
idea.
who was able to escape the apartment and then to see police officers, and you're running up to them. You're like, okay, I'm going to be, I'm saved. I'm going to get out of this. And then for them to give him back to him. Oh man.
They gave him back.
They thought he was drunk or something, right?
Yes.
He told them, Jeffrey Dahmer told the cops, oh, he's drunk. Yeah.
Correct.
Yeah.
He had holes drilled into his head and he literally couldn't talk. And Jeffrey Dahmer said, oh, he's just drunk.
Yeah.
That's my
Very
boyfriend.
And they bought it. Yeah.
Yeah.
And people don't understand too. The cops were in his apartment. Wouldn't you
That
smell
night?
something?
Right.
Oh my
Yeah.
God.
I think that's why the cops came, right? Because weren't neighbors complaining about the smell or
the
something?
smell.
They were complaining about the smell. They were complaining about the noise. It was just weird. The other thing about Jeffrey Dahmer, like I said, here's my dark humor again that I remember, is his favorite movie to watch with people was Empire Strikes Back. I don't know why.
What?
But he would literally, he loved Empire Strikes Back, and he
I thought
would
it was The
watch,
Exorcist.
he
Oh
watched
no,
it
you're right.
through-
Because he would wear those yellow contact lenses to be like a character from Empire Strikes Back. You're right.
Yeah, and he did like The Exorcist, but his go-to date movie would be to put it
Because
in
it was popular. He knew people would. Oh, you have that? Let's go over and watch. Let's go home and watch it. Let's go to your house. Like, yeah,
Right.
I wonder, was he the first
It's
person
crazy.
who really started roofing people on that scale? Did Bundy do it too?
Bundy did it, but maybe I could be wrong. I could be wrong on that.
He used like a chlorophyll, I think, right? Ted Bundy, like a napkin or a.
Yeah, or he would just hit them in the head with something.
that was
I
a
thought.
tire iron. Yeah.
Yeah.
Man.
Well, thank goodness that your cousin was there that night
Yeah.
with.
Really?
That's
Oh,
wild.
yeah.
Yeah. And to this day, he didn't know why he showed up, because he didn't feel like showing up. He was like, he just felt something was off. He kept on telling me, like, man, there's just something about this guy. Like, he's just too like desperate to be with my, my friend.
Yeah.
Like, you know what I mean? You might be out at the club or something, and there's this drunk guy hitting on your friend, all right, pal,
Yeah.
And usually they back off, but he did not. He just
Wow.
kept coming and coming. So
It's like you said, it's like a predator thing. Like you can kind of tell the difference when someone's just being a little creepy and weird versus like they've got their eye on you, like you are their prey. They
That's
are going to
crazy.
kill you. Like
absolutely.
See,
That's just crazy.
that's why I
to
don't
me.
do that much
Yeah,
true
very
crime,
creepy.
if any true crime. This is probably the first real true crime stuff we've talked about. But because people are scarier than actual ghosts. Yes, ghosts are creepy because you don't know what they are. You don't know if they're real, if it's your eyes playing tricks on you or whatever that's happening, right? But people, got to watch out for them. The living can be really dangerous.
Yeah.
Yeah.
People can be
Yeah,
scary,
absolutely.
man.
Yeah, I mean, there's no horror movie, in my opinion, that can capture some of these serial killers that have done to people, including Gein and Dahmer and Bundy and all these other guys who are just, you're like, what? Like, how can you do that? I mean, what makes you do that? I don't know. I can't figure it out.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Okay, well, it's been a fantastic show with you, John. But before we get out of here, I want to ask you, you have any, new projects coming up with your podcast? Any new, guests that you want to actually, get on as far as another, podcast that you're really looking to focus on?
Well, you guys are always welcome
thank you.
to come on because I love you guys. You guys are the greatest.
Yeah.
But I have a new thing out that I'm trying to see if this works or not. Because typically, like I said, I do the interviews and stuff. What I wanted to do was I have a thing called Dairyland Frights, and it's just the spookiest tales from my guest. It's no guest on the show. It's not me making fun of myself or the guest or having a little fun. It's strictly scary, creepy, just true stuff or stories I found off, Reddit or something. And I try to put it out there so people can get a good scare. Like you said, Bobby, you listen to scary tales sometimes before you go to bed. And it's just that. And I'm just trying it for right now because I'm like, I'm going to try something a little different, see if people would like this too, kind of give them a little different from the guests, from, just something spooky that just will keep you up.
Yeah, I think it'll be amazing.
Little nightmares.
And is that is that Dairyland or is that a separate podcast?
Yeah, no, it's on my Dairyland. I didn't separate. I just call it Nightland Frights, and I try to do it once a month or whenever I get time, just to put it out there for fun. And I like to, I like to scare myself too. I like to find stories out there, not only true stories or what you believe are true stories, but I also love when the guests tell me about their growing up and what they saw and what they experienced. And then, I take that, like I said, and I just put that on there to, give people a nice little little nightmare.
That sounds like a fun show. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Good idea.
So I'm going to put it out there, see how people like it. And,
amazing.
Go from there, I guess.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
I'm going to check that out for sure.
So one more thing. It's always that one more thing. If someone was starting a new podcast, what would you tell them to help them have an easier road in the process than what you and myself and the ladies have gone through?
Well, I would get decent internet.
Carolyn.
I'm picking on Carolyn. I got Carolyn on that one.
The ghost in my house. You're always messing with my equipment.
It's creepy internet. It's possessed internet, Carolyn.
It's possessed.
I gotta bring in a priest.
That's why my mic wasn't working either.
Gosh, you're possessed all over the place. Get in a priest, woman. What I would say is number one is be themselves. Because I think a lot of people try to come in and they try to be something else. I don't know why. Don't copy anybody else. Just be yourself and have fun with it. The other thing I would tell them is pick some topics that you love and maybe be a niche. Because like I said, I'm in the Midwest typically. And nobody was really doing Midwest stuff predominantly, just Midwest in that area. Just because I know the area very well. I love this area. I love the people. There's some crazy stories that a lot of people don't even know about that I found out. I'm like, where the hell did that come from? That's really terrible. Like, I can't believe that's in the Midwest. I would say the last thing is don't get yourself caught up with numbers and everything. Just go out and just do it and just be like, if it works,
Yeah.
great. If it doesn't, so what? I had fun doing it. So
Yeah, have fun.
That's
Yeah.
so
Exactly.
true.
yeah.
That's great
Very good
advice. And
advice.
I definitely think you guys can
Solid.
adhere to it out there. And also, if you do a podcast and you start it, always think that you might end up doing it alone. So don't be afraid of that, because you can start out one.
Yes. Don't be afraid to be like, okay, I'm going to do this alone and then whatever.
Yeah.
And just try it. It's okay. As long as you love what
Yeah, you're just having conversations with the person or yourself or your co-host or your guest, and then someone's listening in on that conversation, basically. So yeah.
Absolutely. I would add to that. That's a great point. Really quick is part of the reason I got into this too is because I would talk a lot about the paranormal at a bar or a party or something. And I would have people like, well, you should do a podcast or something like that, because they could see the love I have for it and the interest I have for it. And, I think that's too. If you have something you're really interested in and you have something to say, go ahead.
Perfect.
Go ahead and do it.
Yeah, if you're passionate about it, it's easy to just get into it and talk about it.
Yeah, it's like you're talking at a
Excited.
bar to your friend. Like it's like
Right.
you're having a couple of drinks or whatever, and you're like, "Hey, I found out this really cool story about this ghost, and let me tell you about it." And be like, "Oh yeah, that's awesome."
And those are the best podcasts where it's just laid back, people talking, having a conversation, and
Absolutely.
even if it gets
Yeah.
a little off topic, sometimes it's actually engaging and fun to listen to, because it's like you're sitting there with your buddy, having a
Yeah.
conversation.
Yeah, I agree.
Absolutely.
Perfect.
That's awesome.
That's why I like your podcast, Dairyland, because you are so laid back. I mean, you have like a script and a topic, but at the same time, you're very like loose with it, like whatever. You just go with the flow with your guests. I love it.
Yeah, I just want people to have fun and just because we're talking
Yes.
about dark, deep subjects, right? Like, what's life beyond this? Is there ghosts? Is there a demon on my back? How do I get rid
Get
of it?
real depressing.
Yeah.
You get like real depressing. Be like, oh my god, my house is possessed. How do I get
Right.
maybe do this and
Awesome. All right. Well, again, thank you for coming on Strange Darkness Radio, and you're always welcome to come back because you're fantastic, and you make Carolyn light up like a Kaplinko machine. She doesn't know what that means. She's too young. But
That's the one with the button.
you guys are the greatest too. And like I tell all my spooky friends who are going to be listening to this, definitely listen to Strange Darkness Radio. Bobby, Amy, and Carolyn. They always have fun. They always have great
Nice.
guests on like me.
Love it.
Sometimes. But they always have great topics. I love that you guys have a different point of view. And that's why I love listening to you guys and listening to other podcasts, because we're not the same. It's like, if you want to listen to something a little different, listen to Strange Darkness. If you want to listen to mine, have a little fun, listen to this. If you want to have kind of a combination, listen to both of us. Either way, we just love that you listen and that we can entertain you and maybe take your mind off some things.
Or make you think.
About digging up graves and making land in Cahoon with the funeral parlor.
Or the
Be
mafia.
careful who you go to.
Ooh, see, I'd rather come on, we got to get back to the UFOs.
That's right.
Yeah,
So you don't
like
wind
I
up
said.
on skull.
Probed by Dahmer or probed by E.T.? I think I would take E.T. I'd go the Amy route. I'd take E.T.
Oh, for sure. Yeah, there's no competition. I would take ET every time.
Yeah, absolutely. I get it. Yeah.
Okay, well, great show. Thanks again, ladies.
Yeah, thanks for coming on. You're always fun to talk to. You're a great storyteller, great personality. So it was a great show.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, thanks for coming on. I really enjoyed it. Yeah, love listening to your stories, and you're a lot of fun. So thank you.
Oh, thank you. And I love you guys. Anytime you want me on or whatever.
Yeah, we're gonna have to start booking him. That's the problem. We're gonna probably 6 months down the road we can do something. But amazing. Everyone, good night.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Bye-bye.
Bye.
As your journey through the shadow realms of Strange Darkness Radio concludes, remember that you unlock the door to the paranormal with the key of imagination. Beyond it lies another dimension, a dimension of eerie soundscapes, chilling sights, and the profound depths of the mind. You're venturing into a land of both haunting shadows and tangible substance, where the ethereal meets the corporeal, and ideas take on a spectral form. You've just crossed over into the Strange Darkness Radio Zone. In the vast expanse of the paranormal, there exists a fifth dimension, extending beyond the known realms of our understanding. It is a dimension vast as the cosmos and eternal as infinity, a mysterious terrain between the illumination of light and the depths of shadow. This is the middle ground between the empirical and the supernatural, where fears fester in the pit of humanity's soul and knowledge ascends to its zenith. Welcome to the dimension of imagination, an area we dub the Strange Darkness Radio Zone. As you conclude your journey with us, remember that you're departing this peculiar zone, a place where reality intertwines with the surreal. Be cautious as you step out, for you may find that the boundaries between the normal and the paranormal blur, leaving you forever in the lingering embrace of the unknown. Until next time, farewell from the depths of the Strange Darkness Radio Zone.